Tonight on Most Shocking, a female trooper makes a routine traffic stop.
Don't ever touch me again.
But when she looks inside the driver's wallet, the man goes berserk.
Hey! They're killing my kiddo!
Plus, a tenacious cop keeps a firm grip on a suspect and smashes head-on into a wall. Then, an officer has no idea that he's just pulled over an armed felon until the bullets start flying. And a cowboy behind the wheel of a horse trailer leads police on a wild chase through busy streets. Later, just when a trooper gets one reckless driver off the road, another one crashes the scene. This is not a movie. Everything you're about to see is real. Brace yourself. This is Most Shocking, Stopped by the Law.
Douglas County, Georgia. A car with illegally blacked out windows is pulled over by police. Deputy Lane Thompson instantly smells something suspicious.
When I approached the vehicle, I immediately detected a smell of burnt marijuana coming from the car. And while they were getting their license, on the passenger's lap, I could see little bitty pieces of marijuana.
Another patrol unit joins the deputy. He runs a records check. Suddenly,
yeah, he's going.
The driver peels out. Both units give chase. Officer Ashley Sanders is in the backup cruiser.
The driver was darting in and out of traffic, hitting the emergency lanes. He was driving very aggressively. He was coming up on cars, bumpers, pretty much forcing them to get out of the way. And it continued at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. We did reach 120.
The car spews a cloud of white. But it's not just smoke from the engine. It's also a stash of cocaine.
At one point, they opened the passenger side door and started throwing cocaine out of the door because when he would throw it out the window at the high rate of speed, the cocaine was blowing back in the car.
The suspects speed down the shoulder past a convoy of trucks. The driver of one of the 18-wheelers tries to help out.
With us being on the interstate out on I-20, there's a lot of tractor-trailer traffic, and I would think the tractor-trailer got involved by hearing the police chase coming by the other truckers talking on the CB.
And this vigilante trucker has extra muscle. He's hauling a military combat tank. The big rig blocks them in. One suspect breaks for the woods. The other fugitive marches toward the cruisers. A police canine is on him in a flash. But in the midst of the confusion, something goes terribly wrong.
I was putting handcuffs on the driver when I felt a pain in my left foot, and I thought that the canine had bitten me in the back of the ankle.
It's not the dog, it's the truck. As the big rig pulls away, over 10 tons of cargo rolls right over the deputy's feet.
Both of my feet and both of my legs had an immediate burning sensation, like I had my feet stuck in a hot fire. My mouth went cotton mouth. I don't remember jumping up, walking to the guardrail. I don't remember taking my shoes off. My body was in a state of shock.
Officer Sanders apprehends the passenger in the woods. When he hears his colleague screams,
I saw they were cutting his boots off, and I saw that his feet appeared to be flat, and they were bleeding.
The deputy is fortunate. Doctors will not have to amputate his feet, but it takes months for him to recover.
Both my feet were crushed, and both my feet I have a deep bone bruising, severe nerve damage, and soft tissue damage. and in my right foot, I had one broken bone on the top of my foot.
Officer Thompson is the only person injured in what could have been a fatal pursuit.
There could have been possibly a big wreck with the way the guy was driving. If the injuries I sustained was to save somebody else's life, I'm glad it happened to me, rather than somebody innocent getting killed.
Huron County, Ohio.
Hi, how are you? Okay, here, license registration.
A state trooper pulls over a man for running a light. He has a van full of children and the family dog.
How many kids you got? 4.
When the man pulls out his license, the officer spots a wad of cash.
How much cash are you carrying today?
A couple $1,000 going to visit my family in Cleveland, Michigan.
The trooper is convinced he's hiding something.
Stop back there. Get out of the road.
She decides to search him.
Sir, I'm going to pat you down here, okay? Sure. Take your wallet back out.
When she looks inside his wallet, the officer finds a fake ID.
What do you have to, hold up. Hey, hey! Don't ever touch me again. Ever. Okay? I'm not taking your money. You understand that? You touch me again, I'm gonna mace you. Okay? Don't you move.
The suspect is clearly on edge.
I'm not taking your money.
The trooper radios for help.
160639.
Too late. The crazed man screams gibberish about his children. The officer pulls a can of mace and blasts him.
8788.
The shrieking suspect bolts for his van. The trooper maces him again. The officer heads for her cruiser. Unbelievably, the rampaging suspect is right behind her. Again, she's in mortal danger. The cop finally gets the hysterical man on the ground.
3988.
The man slides toward the van's back wheel, just as one of his daughters tries to exit. The trooper fears the frantic suspect might be reaching for a gun. Finally, the driver relents.
Don't you know? I don't know what happened to it.
Backup units arrive.
Thank you very much. I start searching.
Officers quickly discover why the man was so desperate. He was carrying a load of crack cocaine.
Well, oh, they found crack. They just found crack. They just told me.
The man's children are safely returned to their mother. The father, however, is headed to jail for assault on a police officer.
They're killing my kid! Lay down on the ground! Don't you know?
Austin, Texas. 2 a.m.
FN 439 and 3219.
It's the time of night when Trooper Abe Gonzalez sees more than his fair share of drunk drivers.
How you doing? Hey. What's up, partner? So reason getting stopped, I noticed you were swerving in and out. You all right?
I just wanted to make sure they weren't fatigued or asleep at the wheel or intoxicated.
You been drinking tonight? Your driver's license real quick, please.
The trooper knows that getting tipsy motorists off the road is truly a matter of life and death.
Put that seatbelt on, bro.
But sadly, the number of drunks driving on a given night is greater than the number of cops who can stop them.
I noticed headlights coming my way. The only reaction that I had was to move out of the way quickly. I knew that the accident was severe, and I knew that there were going to be injuries.
Gonzalez hurries to the wrecked vehicles. He checks on the struck occupants first. They're both alive, but badly shaken.
They were seated in the front, but the impact shoved them to the back of the vehicle.
A second officer on site races to the sedan. The scene there is even worse.
Okay.
There were 4 people that were unconscious, that were seriously injured.
They got medevac coming? I already called them.
People who drink think they can get home without any problems.
You all right? You been drinking tonight?
Despite Gonzalez's efforts on this night, it's a mistake these drivers learned the hard way.
Coming up.
You're gonna kill somebody else! Pull over!
A homicidal renegade blazes 100 miles an hour into oncoming traffic until fearless lawmen take him off the road.
Put it, man!
And
Get out of the car!
a traffic stop turns into a high-voltage nightmare when a criminal grabs an officer's taser.
You got the taser!
Plus, when a wanted suspect punches the gas, a cop hangs on for a hell ride. That's straight ahead on Most Shocking, Stopped by the Law.
Temple, Texas. Just moments ago, the man in this SUV was pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt. Instead of complying, he tried to run over the officer, triggering a terrifying pursuit. Officer Thomas Prado does his best to keep pace with the reckless suspect.
I've been involved in a lot of pursuits. You just never know what's gonna happen next. You don't want anybody to get hurt, so you're praying that nothing bad is gonna happen.
Prado and the other cops try to box in the madman. But he blasts through the cruisers like a battle tank. The suspect then races onto the highway.
Oh, man. This guy's gonna kill somebody.
Officer Bobby Gutierrez joins the blistering chase.
This had to be stopped, and it had to be stopped immediately. It is no different than someone walking down the street with the loaded gun and randomly shooting a gun.
In a bold move, Gutierrez tries to shoot out the SUV's tires with his assault rifle. The suspect responds by cranking up the danger. He barrels over the median at nearly 100 miles an hour, then rockets down the interstate in the wrong direction. Prado can't believe the horror he's witnessing. He gets on a bullhorn and pleads with the fugitive.
Pull over, man! You're gonna kill yourself! Come on, pull over, man! You're gonna kill somebody! Come on! Pull over!
I didn't think it was ever gonna stop, and I was just hoping it wasn't gonna stop in a bad way.
Oh, damn. I'm gonna need to get another car out there. Check him out. Here we go, here we go, here we go.
Finally, the driver pulls back into the right lanes.
Oh, my God.
But Prado's got a new problem.
And I'm running out of gas.
Just then, the lunatic flies out of control. Cops swoop in. Prado gets the suspect on the ground and finds the man wounded.
I look inside the cab of the SUV, and there is it looked like a ketchup bottle exploded inside the SUV. There was blood everywhere.
The driver, Russell Farrell, survives and is now serving 20 years for aggravated assault.
God was watching out after the citizens that day. It was a miracle. Nobody got hurt except for the bad guy.
Gahanna, Ohio. Sergeant Sheila Murphy pulls over a familiar driver for speeding.
Throw your window down. Shut the door.
A man she's had trouble with before.
What do you have illegal on you? You or in the car? Knives, weapons, narcotics. Because we're not having a repeat of last time. Do you understand me?
The last time she stopped him, the man resisted arrest. And it looks like he's ready for round 2.
I asked you a question. Answer it directly.
I'm not answering.
Get out of the car.
I'm not answering.
Get out of the car.
I'm not getting out of the car.
Sir, you're under arrest because... Stop!
Sergeant Murphy pulls out a taser and calls for help.
Step it up. Step it up. Step it up. Step it up.
Backup cruisers speed toward the scene. Meanwhile, the hostile driver is showing no signs of cooperating.
Get out of the car. I'm going to shoot you with this taser. You understand me? Get out of the car. Now!
A curious neighbor walks over. He's ordered to stay clear.
Step back. Step back. Get out of the car.
Driving
Get
under
out.
suspension.
The officer tasers the hulking suspect, but it only enrages him. He rushes from the car and attacks. Two units race to Sergeant Murphy's aid. The offender has her in a headlock.
Release her. Release her.
Murphy's taser is knocked from her hand.
Get on the ground. Put him on.
The attacker seizes the weapon and gives the sergeant a jolt. He even grabs a mace and sprays the cops.
You got the taser. You got the taser. Get on the ground. Get on the taser. Get him.
But another shot from the taser does the trick.
Get him. Get on the taser.
Watch out! Step back!
The suspect is wrestled under control and handcuffed.
Stand right now. Separate. Get on the ground right now. Now.
Get your hands on your back!
Do not hit him. No.
Step back, sir! Step back, sir!
Yeah.
Get the other one behind your back!
Sergeant Murphy's high-voltage ordeal is finally over. The belligerent driver is lucky she chose to use non-lethal force, even though her life was in danger.
Shoot him. Shoot him.
Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Officer Andrew Rocco assists fellow patrolman during a traffic stop.
When I asked him to exit the car, I could see right there in his facial expressions and body mannerisms that fight or flight look in his face.
Suddenly, the motorist guns it. With one hand on the door, Rocco is along for the ride.
Took a couple steps alongside the vehicle and then realized if I was going to let go of the vehicle, there's a good chance I would fall down and possibly get run over.
Shots ring out. The van smashes head-on into a building.
I remember thinking, okay, I gotta hold on.
The driver swerves in an attempt to throw Rocco from the van. But the cop holds firm.
He then punched me in the chest 3 times and then leaned across the front seats of the car and tried to kick me off the side of his car.
That's when Rocco fires 4 rounds at the suspect.
I wasn't shooting to kill, I was shooting to stop. I wanted to stop the situation.
The wounded man, Anthony Woodard, is taken into custody. His reckless decision to run costs him 6 years in the state pen.
Up next, an ex-con turns a simple traffic stop into an attempt on an officer's life. Plus,
got a DUI motorcycle running from me.
an intoxicated biker on the run suffers a bone-jarring takedown. Then, a cop stops a man for speeding,
Put your hands on the car.
but soon finds himself in a violent struggle with a desperate drug dealer. When most shocking, Stopped by the Law continues.
Mebane, North Carolina. A patrolman stops a motorist for a moving violation.
Can I see your driver's license registration?
I'm calling for the registration for the day my car.
Huh?
My girl called to call up for the registration.
Do you have any kind of ID?
Suddenly, the man tries to exit the car.
Put your hands on the car. Put your hands on the car. Put your hands on the car. All right.
The suspect's holding something in his hand.
Put your hands on the car.
It's not a weapon. It's a wad of cash.
I see it. Put your hands out. All right. Put it. Drop it. All right. Drop it.
With bills in hand, the hoodlum tries to break free. But the deputy pins the man against the vehicle.
Give him help.
Then body slams him to the ground.
Oh, my money.
Hundreds of dollars litter the street.
Get out. All right.
The officer keeps a firm grip. But still has no idea why the man started this fight.
I need help. Put your hand down. Put your hand down. Yeah.
Backup arrives from not one,
Put your hand behind your back.
but two bystanders.
They call for help.
The Good Samaritans hold the culprit down. With a second officer on the scene, the outlaw is apprehended and the cash is collected. But the real payday is in the car.
There's a big plastic bag full of crack. Big bricks.
Thanks to a couple of brave citizens,
You got it?
the drug dealer is off the streets.
I appreciate y'all helping. We'll only get your names. Put your hands on the car. Put your hands on the car.
The pusher won't be getting back his money,
Put your hands, get some help.
but he will be spending time behind bars.
Oh, my money. Get out.
In Idaho, an erratic motorist is about to change Sergeant Ishmael Gonzalez's life.
I received a call of a possible drunk driver swerving all over the road, trying to run people off and throwing objects at people.
As he approaches the car, Gonzalez has no idea that the driver is an armed ex-con who would rather kill than go back to prison.
I was able to say hello, and that was about all I got out when the driver shot me. I immediately felt the pain in my chest. I was scared to death. I thought I was not ever going to see my family again. I'm not going to see my wife and kids.
The officer retreats and fires back, shattering the Jeep's window and mirror. As the suspect flees, the sergeant breathlessly assesses his wounds.
I immediately checked myself to see how bad the injuries were by actually feeling it in my chest, reaching down inside my shirt, feeling for bullet holes.
Thankfully, Gonzalez is wearing his bulletproof vest. It's the only thing that keeps him alive.
that if I had not been wearing my vest, those 2 bullets would have struck my vital organ, and I probably would have died. Well, no probablys. I would have died at the scene within a few minutes.
The gunman races away, but a massive manhunt soon tracks him down.
The individual was surrounded in a barn, in a shelter close by, and he subsequently took his own life.
This dramatic video is a chilling reminder of the dangers braved by officers like Ishmael Gonzalez every day.
At any moment, you could be faced with a life or death situation, and next time you might not survive it.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. Officer Todd Royval is in pursuit of a speeding driver.
60 and a 40. 6400 block of Lee.
But just as he's about to catch up, a motorcycle runs a red light.
I saw the corner of my eye a motorcycle drive through the red light. It scared me at first. I had just a split second to react, and then adrenaline took over.
Royval swerves, pitching his cruiser into a dangerous slide. The breakneck biker hits the throttle.
237. Got a DUI motorcycle running from me northbound Lee Highway crossing over 153. He just about hit me.
He was all over the road. I knew he was a drunk driver.
237, let's turn around. We're gonna go southbound on Lee, southbound on Lee.
The biker wheels in circles. Royval has had enough and decides to end it.
I figured the speeds that we were going, that it would be safe for me just to tap him and knock him over.
A sharp jolt to the rear tire is all it takes.
Get on your back! Put your hands on your back, right now! 237, I got him in custody.
The belligerent man clearly kicked back one too many.
I've drunk a little bit, that's it. I drunk a lot of bit. No, not a lot of bit.
His blood alcohol level came back at 0.12. He was still drunk. He didn't have any comprehension what he did at all.
The light was green. The light wasn't green. Yes, it was on my For me, it was green for me.
The driver, Robert Rogers, is charged with driving under the influence. But if it wasn't for Royval's precise driving, it could have been lights out for this boozed-up biker.
If I would have hit that motorcycle at that speed, it would have been working a fatality. There's no way that a motorcycle would have been able to, or a rider on a motorcycle would have been able to take that hit.
Put your hands on your back! Put your hands on your back, right now!
Coming up, officers cleaning up at a crash site find themselves directly in the path of a four-wheel missile. Plus, a suicidal suspect escapes under a barrage of beanbags. But spikes bring the chase to an explosive finale. When most shocking, Stopped by the Law returns.
Knoxville, Tennessee. Officer Dennis Bible and his partner, G.T. George, are on scene of a two-car accident. These motorists are the rain-slicked highway's latest victims.
There was 3 that I know of accidents that happened in that same spot the same day. I think that spot's dangerous because it's a very sharp turn. The roads were somewhat wet.
I didn't do well yet.
Bible and his partner are just wrapping up when, without warning, an SUV screams out of control.
When I heard the noise, I didn't look. I knew what it had to be. It wasn't going to be good. I just ran. Not much time to think about things, really, just kind of react.
Officer George barely escapes certain death.
My partner did take the time to look. It was really close with him. He's pretty shook up. To this day, he doesn't know how to talk about it.
Bible makes a quick break for the woods, pushing 2 civilians out of the path of the careening car. Remarkably, no one is injured in the crash. In this case, wet roads are not to blame for the near disaster.
During this incident, the driver was distracted. Evidence at the scene showed that he was apparently putting marijuana into a cigar at the time.
He's charged with reckless driving and possession of marijuana. Bible and his partner return to the road, knowing that danger can be just seconds away.
You have to value life and live every day like it could be the last one, because we're not promised the next second. I consider myself very lucky.
Dave, we're all here. We're all on the same side, buddy.
Wickliffe, Ohio. A former cop turned security guard, David Stanko, is on an emotional precipice.
Dave. Put the lights on, you ain't got to worry about that.
His girlfriend, who is the mother of his infant daughter, has decided to end their relationship.
No, Dave, put the lights down, put your hands up, and we're done.
Now he's threatening to end his own life with a 6-inch knife.
Dave.
Officers desperately want to end this without lethal force. They load their shotguns with beanbag shells.
Dave, put the lights down, put your hands up, and we're done. I'll make you halfway.
The weight of his misery makes him literally weak in the knees. Finally, he makes his decision. But it's not the one officers were looking for. Stanko removes his child's car seat, a sign that he's giving up all hope.
Dave. Just that, buddy. Dave, that.
Off camera, he puts the knife to his throat. Officers have to act now. A barrage of beanbags and pepper balls drives the unstable man inside his car and racing away into the night. The kid gloves are now off. Officers can't let his despair cause terror on the open road. A unit lays spikes at an intersection. His tire is blown. But his determination is not. He continues his frenzied flight, ricocheting off a telephone pole. The front tire explodes, grinding the metal rim in a shower of sparks. The hobbled car lurches to a stop. Stanko emerges and puts the knife to his head. But this time, police aren't negotiating. A second flurry of beanbags knocks him off his feet and convinces him to throw away his weapon. Cops swarm in and pull Stanko from his car. The ordeal is finally over. He won't be hurting anyone tonight. Thanks to the use of non-lethal weapons, he's able to receive treatment at a hospital before facing any charges.
Up next, road rage triggers a standoff between an off-duty cop and a gun-toting driver. Plus,
my nose.
a juiced-up Jezebel tries to bribe her way out of a DUI charge.
You want it? You got it. You're man now.
On Most Shocking, Stopped by the Law.
Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic. A road rage incident turns into an armed confrontation. The driver inside this pickup flashed a gun at the man in the purple shirt. He had no idea that he was messing with an off-duty cop. Bystanders try to defuse the standoff. For a moment, the policeman lowers his pistol, a break from the tension. The driver starts to get out. But the argument flares again when he refuses to give up his weapon. The man finally surrenders. But as the cop tries to arrest him, he grabs the officer's gun hand. Passers-by flee, knowing the weapon could discharge at any moment. A man who removed the gun from inside the truck tries to help. The enraged man tires and finally gives up. He prepares to leave, but incredibly, he wants his gun back. He returns to claim it. The police officer is wary, but the man who has his pistol allows him to take it, hoping to avoid more conflict. With no other officers to back him up, the off-duty cop relents. He's just thankful that no one had to die in this potentially lethal confrontation. Oak Ridge North, Texas.
How you doing back there? Just checking on you. I can't hear you. I'm just checking on you. That's fine. Okay.
A drunk driver is on her way to jail. Now that she's off the streets, the only threat she poses is to herself.
Hurting my nose.
The intoxicated woman confides in the male officer.
Can I mention something to you? I have not had a drunk in years.
Then sets her sights on the patrolman.
You want it? You got it. If you're man enough, give me what I've been missing.
Her indecent proposal is strictly no strings attached. Tonight, the only action she'll be getting is fingerprints and a photograph, followed by an aching reminder not to drink and drive.
Hurting my nose.
Coming up, a reckless cowboy makes a run from the law until a posse shoots out his tires. That's straight ahead on Most Shocking, Stopped by the Law.
Wood County, Texas. Trooper Joe Hogue stops a horse trailer with expired tags.
How you doing? Good, how are you? Good, sir. Your tags expired and your window tint's too dark. The window tint came from the auto parts store. It's too dark. You have driver's license, insurance, car with you. Driver's license at home.
The driver doesn't have his license or insurance. But it's his behavior that has Hogue on edge.
The stress level was so high, it did make me a little bit more alert.
What's your last name? P-O-T-E-T. First name? Brent. What's your backpack?
He hesitated while giving me the information and made me think this guy may be giving me false information. I didn't feel comfortable leaving him up there at the cab of the truck.
Come on back here, let me get your driver's license information.
The cowboy paces anxiously. Hogue asks one more question about the driver's record.
Are you worried about it?
Yes, a little bit.
I can tell. What might be an issue? Suspension, warrant, or what?
No suspension. Maybe a blue warrant.
A blue warrant?
Maybe, I don't know.
My guard immediately went to the very next level. A blue warrant is a term in Texas that means you have been paroled from prison, you violated your probation, and you are being sent back to prison.
But this is one ex-con who has no intention of going back to jail. Suddenly, he bolts. The man is so desperate
Coming into Hawkins.
that he makes a high-speed escape in a lumbering horse trailer. Up ahead, a cop throws down a spike strip. One tire is out, but the pursuit thunders on, blasting straight through the heart of town. It could spell disaster.
We've now made the decision that this guy is a danger to society. And we need to do everything we can to try to catch this guy.
More cruisers converge. But even with an army of cops on his tail, the felon still thinks he can make it.
At some point, this guy is going to wake up and realize that he's not going to get away.
Police fire rounds into his tires to grind him to a stop. The suspect panics. Parts of the truck and trailer fly off. Now 2 tires are blown, and the jailbird's flight from justice is about to be grounded. He bails on foot, but officers quickly nab him. Brent Poteet thought he could escape a return trip to jail. But that careless decision only added time to his stay in the big house.
I do think this is the most wildest chase that I've ever been in. It was unbelievable.
When it's your job to clean up the streets, things can go from 0 to deadly in an instant. But that's a risk every officer accepts as part of their sworn duty to protect and serve.